Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you like the video today, please comment and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards of Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner, and I'd like to give special thanks and honor to my producer this morning who's making it happen for me, Mr. Jeremiah Long. Our video today is on Johnny Rodgers, running back, Nebraska University. If you like the video, please comment and share it. There's been a lot of great explosive offensive plays that's happened in college football history. And just last week, we had a very special guest that was on 100 Yards Football, played quarterback at the University of Georgia, Buck Bellew. And I brought up that outstanding explosive 92-yard touchdown pass he had in the 1980 game against Florida to Lindsey Scott. And I brought up two other plays in my lifetime that I consider the greatest offensive plays ever in a big-time college football game. There was O.J. Simpson's 64-yard touchdown in the 1967 UCLA and USC game, and then Vince Young, 19-yard touchdown in the 2006 Rose Bowl, Texas versus USC. Well, as an 11-year-old during Thanksgiving weekend in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, around all my relatives, we were sitting around watching this football game as you see this young man take it off 72 yards to the house. And we was watching this guy, Johnny Rodgers, one of the most explosive, electrifying football players that's ever touched the soil in college football. And think about this, about Mr. Rodgers. I want everybody today to go back and look at that punt return that he took in the opening minutes against Oklahoma that put Nebraska up 7-0. When he received the ball, he literally broke that first tackle. And I'm still today, I'm trying to figure out how did he get out of that tackle. But we talking about one of the greatest football players on a great football program that took it to another level. Won the Heisman Trophy in 1972. Two-time national champion in 1970, 1971. Consensus All-American in 1972. But I'm going to talk a little bit about his skill set here. But he's out of Omaha, Nebraska. And I see why he had some in that water in him, that blood, because he went to Omaha Tech High School. And you know who went to Omaha Tech? One of the greatest baseball players, maybe the greatest pitcher in Major League history, Bob Gibson. They came out of the same neighborhood. So I can understand why Johnny Rodgers was great. But getting back to this young man and his ability, when you look at him and you think about the Nebraska program, and you think about all the great players that came out of there from Junior Miller, Aaron Taylor, Will Shears, Tommy Frazier, Turner Gill, Irvin Fryer, Eric Crouch, Mike Rozier, Jarvis Redwine, Armand Green, and Lawrence Phillips. This gentleman right here probably is at the top of the heap as being the most explosive player out of those group of football players. And one thing about Johnny Rodgers that really used to amaze me when I watched him play was his skill set. That acceleration at the running back position, at the wide receiver position, as a punt returner, A+. The speed, A+. The agility, A+. Greatness as a football player, A+. Determination as a football player, A+. The balance as a kick returner, as a receiver, as a running back, A+. Yards after contact, A+. The separation, A+. His hands as a receiver, A+. And third down value as a football player, A+. Seeing that big win Nebraska had over Oklahoma in 1971, the game of the century. We talk about his punt return, but he made the biggest play of the game. People don't really realize on that final Nebraska drive, as they was going for a winning touchdown, he made a key reception, an 8-yard reception that took Nebraska onto that win on that final drive as they beat Oklahoma 35-31. Nobody brings that play up. But when we look at Johnny Rodgers' statistics, I want you to hear this right now here on 100 Yards of Football. In his career, he averaged 15 yards on 98 career punt returns and scored 7 touchdowns. He had 1 kickoff return. But this is what really, really amazed me about Johnny Rodgers. As a running back, he had 130 attempts in his career and he scored 11 touchdowns. As a receiver, he had 143 receptions and he scored 26 touchdowns. As a senior, he touched the ball 152 times, and 11% of those times he scored touchdowns. Think about that one more time, how explosive Johnny Rodgers was. As a running back, he gained only 836 yards in his career, but he scored 16 touchdowns. As a receiver, he only had 2,700 yards in his career, but he scored 27 touchdowns. He was a touchdown machine, and he was a very explosive football player. And as I always say, he was one of those players that make you get up out of your seat and sing hallelujah and want to shake somebody. Look at that gentleman on the screen, and he's taking it to the house. 1971, the game of the century. Johnny Rodgers took it 72 yards back, and the Nebraska team won back-to-back national championships. As you look at that young man on the screen, as I go to my grave in the next few years, hopefully I'm able to stay on this earth for another 20 years. Johnny Rodgers is always going to be in my heart as one of the best pound for pound, excellent return man, running backs and receivers that ever played in college football at one of the greatest schools ever, Nebraska. That young man was a hell of a football player. Tops. Greatness. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. We surely appreciate it on 100 Yards of Football. Thanks again to my producer, the very talented Jeremiah Long. Johnny Rodgers out of Omaha, Nebraska, Omaha Tech, same high school as the great Bob Gibson. Y'all be blessed here on 100 Yards of Football.